I just finished watching The Fall Guy. I think last year when we watched Barbie, whilst Margot Robbie got all the applause, rightfully so, I really feel like Ryan Gosling showed us something that most of us were not ready for. Like, the guy is a great actor. I think after watching The Notebook, the way he made that movie, granted he was young and granted most people knew him before that because he was in Disney, but I think these past 2 years have been great for him, Like, I don't even want to say the past 2 years, because even in Blade Runner 2049, he was amazing in that movie. In Barbie, he was great, but in The Fall Guy, I feel like he just goes to an extra level. The chemistry that him and Emily Blunt have is phenomenal. Like last year, Blunt in Oppenheimer, I felt like she was an unsung hero in that movie. She really performed quite well, like the way that she was supporting Cillian Murphy in that movie is phenomenal, because in most cases, like I said in my review of Oppenheimer, was how her reactions were going, like when she wasn't even speaking, and how she was just into the film. It's easy to give credit to Christopher Nolan and saying maybe this is what he requested from her, but to be able to deliver the way that she did, that for me is something that is phenomenal, And in this movie, she delivers. I feel like they had this balance whereby she didn't have to do much, She just had to be, a lot of times we say to people, be yourself, right? But like she had to be Emily Blunt in order for this film to work, and I feel like it did. And if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to go watch it. I know people have been saying, oh, this film is flopping at the box office, but I think people are really missing out. Like, it's a film that I feel like is enjoyable at the theater. It's a film that gives an ode to stunt people. I think they're the unsung heroes of the film industry. When we watch all those superhero movies, these are the guys that put their bodies on the line. A lot of things are green screen now, are blue screen now, but back in the day, these things had to be done, and in some shows they're still done because you can't do everything in VFX, otherwise it doesn't look real. And these people really do put their bodies on the line for actors, and they can do crazy things that most of us can only dream about. But the main thing with the film is, if we're going to talk about the plot line, I feel like it has a good plot. It's a good film. It's a comedy, right? So it's like, it's hard to take serious, the plot, but also it has plot holes, as it would, because when you're trying to send a message based on, oh, there's this group of people, but then we also have to make something entertaining, I think you run into a challenge of whereby the story is hard to follow for an audience, because you're like, oh, obviously the protagonist is Ryan Gosling, so we are following him, we are watching the movie through his perspective, but then also there's this relationship aspect of it with him and Emily Blunt, and then there is what the story is, what he's actually trying to do. So everything that he's doing is in a sense a love story. He's not telling her that he loves her, but he's doing things because he's in love with her, and she doesn't see it, which is something that I feel like as a man I could relate to. Like, I don't know, I'm not a female, so I wouldn't know, but like, there are times where that sort of love where I cannot tell you how much I love you, but I can show you. And I think that's what he does. He shows, doesn't tell. And she doesn't pick up on it because she's heard on things that happened before. And there's a lot of things, that then can go there, because us as an audience, we know why he's doing what he's doing, and she doesn't know what she's doing and why he's doing it. And you start to see these elements of storytelling that they're using in the film, but like I said, then the challenges are making things make sense, because a lot of times a lot of the things don't make sense. One of the main things is the main actor kills a guy, and the whole story is essentially trying to make a cover up. But then the cover up is hard to believe, because like you have a room full of people and everything is supposedly on this phone, and you're like, okay, when they have the phone, why don't they just share the video? And then, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of factors, and the phone gets destroyed, but all of a sudden that video is all of a sudden available again. So you're like, oh, how? And then, they try to sell this idea of deep fake and how it can be used to change people and whatever. Like, it pays homage and it shows the challenges of technology. And I feel you often end up with this situation because you have a lot of ideas that you want to compress and express within a film, but then you also have an interesting plot line of the love story that they could have just continued with, but they didn't, which, to be fair, they can do whatever they want. But then I think one of the challenges that you have with watching the film is it then begins to feel too long, because the movie is like above 2 hours that you're sitting in the theater and you're like, okay, can we wrap it up? And it then makes a challenging final act because of what happened in the first 2 acts of the movie, where we've built up, because the idea is mainly, do they end up together? Does he clear his name? What happens to the protagonist? Is there consequences? How do we land this film? And I think that they did pretty well, because you can sort of excuse every plot hole with the idea of comedy, and that's the beauty. And I think one great thing in this movie is the actors. Like, everybody delivers, from Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Winston Duke, and the rest of the characters. They deliver. I wasn't really sold on the protagonist, like I'm forgetting his name. Like, his performance was great, it was good, don't get me wrong. Like, it was this irritating actor. Like, it's the thing of how when you work on crew, you picture actors, and he does that, he delivers that to a T. But then also working in the film industry, you're like, this is not a real person, man. Like, it's not really like that. But like, I get it, and I liked how Jason Momoa just comes in at the end of the movie to do something. One thing that I learned afterwards was the director of this movie was the same director of Bullet Train, and that was a movie where I liked it, but a lot of people did not like it, and I felt like it was a great movie. And even with this one, I really feel like it's a good movie. I didn't plan on going to watch it, to be honest with you, but in the last trailer, like, I was just like, you know what, it's Emily Blunt, I'll go watch. And she delivers. Like, the camera work in this film is something to behold, because the whole idea is about selling emotions, and how Ryan, like, their comedy, their chemistry, it's in their faces, it's there, and it's captured so well that you don't miss a beat with the two of them. And I think that's kudos to them. Like, the cinematography of the film is just beautiful. Like, the way the framing happens. At some point I was thinking to myself, hey, I haven't seen feet. Do they even show any like wide shots? And they were there, but they were limited, because everything was just within the frame, like medium shot, close-ups, and then we go wide, and you have that, and you're able to pick up the expression. And I think when someone is using close-ups like that and is confident, your actors are not only acting in terms of what they say, but they're giving you those non-verbal cues. And I think these two guys, they did it pretty well. The movie, I think that the thing is, if you're not really into comedy, and I don't know, like, when I was growing up, when you're watching comedy, you didn't need to know it was a comedy. Like, you didn't need to know that, like, when you're watching Eddie Murphy movies or Martin Lawrence or Jim Carrey, like, you're not watching it as a genre, but you're just watching it to watch it, and it was just pure fun. I think in this one, there was a running gag with Winston Duke's character where he references movies, and you're like, I don't get it, but it's more of, okay, maybe this is just what it's like on set, that they were doing that. But I've watched most reviewers on this, and they're like, oh, there was a running gag that wasn't working. I found some of it funny, like with the dog that only takes its the dog that only listens to French. That was an amazing thing. And the way that the dog always bites the same part of the human body, like, you're like, all right, cool, whatever, it's funny. I mean, there's a lot of sequences that are funny in terms of, if you're someone who just enjoys comedy, I think this film touches that. If you're someone who likes a little bit of action, it's also in there. It's a comedy action type of film, so you get a lot of those, and you get the odd stunts. There's a lot of great stunts, and there's a lot of, if you're looking for a little bit of romance, if you're looking a little bit of controversy, everything is built in it. It's not 2 hours of your wasted time. And I really feel and wish that this movie becomes a success, because I think it allows different stories to be told, and it gets there. And I think Ryan Gosling really does deserve his flowers for the work that he's done. Like, I don't think he's delivered a terrible movie from the time he did The Notebook, to be honest. So yeah, the Fall Guy, I genuinely enjoyed it, and I recommend anybody to go watch it whilst it's still in theater. I watched it, on the D box. Like that thing, man. I don't even know who came up with that idea. That shit is whack, man. Like imagine you're watching a film and the car is driving and your seat throws you. I feel like it takes you out of the film, like in terms of just experience. I haven't really enjoyed sitting in a D box, like I did the same thing with Avatar Way of the Water. I didn't enjoy it. Like you're watching the show and then the seat just throws you and you're like, nah, really? Like, but it is what it is. I'm looking forward to Planet of the Apes or whatever, because I think that's just gonna be crazy. Do you know about the concept of evolution? Like that line in the trailer just kills me. But yeah, let me know which other movies to check out or don't, because I'm also waiting for Furiosa. I think that's gonna be another crazy movie. So this summer, I think we are blessed with a lot of movies. Joker is coming out. Yeah, it was a good year for movies so far. I mean, we haven't been disappointed with what has been out, and I think this can be a year that the film business comes back.